What's going on, everybody? It's Garnet Walters here. I hope that you're having a great day. I hope you're safe, and I hope that you're doing well. I'm going to answer a question that I get pretty frequently, which is, how much time should you put into practice? I don't want to put like a definite, a solid, this is what you're supposed to do no matter what, because I know that people are in different stages of life. I know that sometimes life gets in the way. You have responsibilities and things like that. Well, I'll put it to you like this. When I started playing as a kid, I was putting in about half an hour, every day, and that's because I was learning, and there's a thing called law of diminishing returns, where you could do something so much that it starts to have a negative effect on what you're doing. So as a kid, about half an hour. But then as I got older, going into my preteens, my practice time started to increase because the pieces that I was practicing, it was more difficult. So the half an hour turned into about 45 minutes to an hour. And this is learning different types of, repertoire, right? Then as I got into high school, the practice time, it grew even more. Not to mention that in the summer, I was putting in about 2 hours. Sometimes it was 2 hours straight. Not 2 hours straight, but 2 hours with small breaks in between. And sometimes I'll practice an hour in the morning and then an hour in the afternoon or evening. Just kind of breaking it up. But then as I got as I graduated high school, went to college, that's when I became a practiceaholic. Some of it was because of, I love playing music and I wanted to get better really, really badly. And the other part of it is, and this is just me being vulnerable, like I was going through a lot of traumatic experiences in my life, and music and practicing was a big part of, my escape of that. So when things were getting really crazy where I was, practicing, doing music was my saving grace, was my safe place. So yes, it is that. But I was putting in a lot of hours, and I was putting in so much hours that, I didn't have a balance. And the balance is really important because you can do something for so long that you neglect your responsibilities. Not even responsibilities, but just being around people that love and care about you. I know I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but like this is all gonna make a point. It's all gonna come to a point. So yes, I was practicing so much that I was wasn't really around family and stuff like that. My sister, who I love dearly, she said that I was practicing so much that I'm not even stepping back to see the progress that I've made, and that's important too. I was putting a whole bunch of hours and stuff, and it was unhealthy. So I say that to say this: you have to assess where you are in life. You got to assess, you have family, you have, like married, you have children, you got to consider all of that, because, you can't practice 24 hours a day, 7 days a week and not spend time with your loved ones, because people want to know who you are. People who care about you want to know who you are. So, so you got to assess, how much time you have available. But here's the other thing. The other thing is that even, me being a kid and starting off playing like a half an hour every day, the key thing is the consistency. That's the main thing. You got to be consistent. So if you can get, a half an hour, 45 minutes every day, or frequently, like maybe 5 days a week, 6 days a week, if you do that, you'll improve a lot faster than trying to lump everything up in one day where you practice like, 2-3 hours, in one practice session. Because the key thing in all of this is consistency and repetition, right? So sometimes you'll have, a half an hour. Sometimes you'll have, 2-3 hours, and you split them up accordingly. It depends on where you are in life. It depends on what's going on. If you're single or whatever, and you have more time, and you're able to, maneuver in a different way than a person who is married and has a family. So I realized that, when I got married, and especially when I had kids, because my kids can't, they can't have, a relationship with me if I'm in the practice room all the time, right? Or then I have the door closed on top of that. So I have to be available to them. The other part of it is this too, that when you're practicing, you also have to be aware of where you are emotionally and mentally. So when you find that your mind is starting to drift, it's better that you stop and then take like a 5 to 10 minute break. Then, come back to it. Then rather than trying to push through, because what ends up happening is your brain will kind of like shut off. And what ends up happening is that you start playing, on autopilot. So then when you go back and start practicing again, like the next day, you don't remember anything because your mind wasn't engaged. So that's another key thing. You got to make sure that your mind is engaged. Make sure you're aware of your emotional state, your physical state, all that stuff. That's a part of practicing. Like your whole body is involved in whatever you're working on. The other thing, in terms of practicing, is that take a mental break whenever you can. I know I kind of said that earlier, but sometimes, it's good to just take a day to rest so your mind can kind of regroup and stuff, because you have to live life. That's the other part of it. Now, there are, pianists out there who put in a whole bunch of hours, like they have more, like they put in like 10, 12 hours sometimes. And that, to me, looking back, is kind of like overkill, because again, you got to spend time with family, you got to refresh your mind, and you got to experience life too. Because what I also found is that your life flows through your music. You know what I'm saying? Your life flows through your music. Your life experiences flow through your music, not flow. Or it can flow, but I'm saying flow. And flow through your music. Arthur Rubinstein, he gave a quote, and I believe the quote was that 3 to 4 hours a day is fine. Another quote that I remember is that if you're trying to play like the piano like physically, it's going to take you like 6 to 7 hours. But if you just play with your mind engaged, you can get all that work done in an hour and a half. So it's also a matter of how you use your mind and where you are again emotionally. You just gotta just assess where you're at. Don't let what other people do in terms of practicing, don't let that like intimidate you. And I'll tell you this story too. Like I remember when I was in college, and I would practice. There's a certain time of practice every day, which is like around 4 or 5 o'clock, and find a practice room, and there's always this one person who's in the room next to me. He's practicing, he's blazing, and I'm just working on whatever I'm working on, and sometimes it's just like kicking my butt. But the thing was that the true test I realized was when it came time to perform. So when I performed my stuff, my professor, he said that every time he heard me, there was a level of improvement. And I wasn't even practicing as long as, the other musician, even though I was putting in a lot of hours, and the other thing is that when he told the other musicians that, he's like, okay, you sound good, but he was kind of at a level. It made me think, like, sometimes it's not even a matter of how much time you have, even though how much time you have is important, but it's what you do with that time. Because if you're practicing, music that you already know, you're just playing it. Like if you're practicing with an intent of like you want to work on something, you want to improve on something, you want to add something to your bag, you know, that you're gonna sound bad, but when you sound bad, you're gonna hear the improvement because you want to get better, because you're playing what's unfamiliar to you. And again, this all ties up with how much time you need to practice, right? So just keep in mind that you want to assess where you're at in life. You also want to assess, where you are mentally, emotionally, physically, and all that. You want to assess your relationships. You want to assess what you want to work on and how long it's going to take. So using goals and stuff, that's going to be really important because that's going to help pinpoint how you practice and how long it'll take for you to practice and get to your goal. So if it's a half an hour a day and that's all you have, be as consistent as you can. If you can get like 2-3 hours and you want to work with that, then cool, be consistent. But the key thing in all this is just to be consistent and have goals. It's going to vary through life. Things will happen, good things and bad things will happen and everything in between. So, just be consistent. And also this, sometimes you can practice without being by an instrument. Like if you're listening to music, that's considered practicing too because you're adding stuff to your bag at the same time. But you'll be inspired and stuff too. So just keep all those things in mind. I know I kind of said a lot, but just be with just be cool with where you're at. And if you have to make adjustments, but be consistent. That's the key thing. Be consistent. If it's half an hour a day, do that. If it's an hour a day, do that. If it's 2 hours every day, do that. But as long as it's consistent. So I hope this answers your question. You can check out my information. It's in the description below. Also, I'm on TikTok, and I didn't realize how TikTok was fun. But I'm on TikTok now, and you can check me out there. I have some stuff going on there. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me on social media. Man, have a great day and be consistent.